The way we treat our veterans, I think I speak for most Americans when I say these are the people that give us the most, so we've got to give back the best. And Doug Collins believes that, too. Not only did he serve in Congress, he served our nation in the military as well. And so he is now Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and we are so grateful that he was able to make time for us today. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Chris. It's good to be with you. And as the president said on this highly rated show, I mean, you got to be here with you. And seeing a sunrise like that, hey, it makes you know that the best is yet to come, folks.
Amen. Amen. I think you've got to be very, very proud so far of the reforms in the first Trump administration, frankly. I heard glowing things in the first Trump term from veterans that I know, who said just their experience at the VA was better then. I don't really know what that experience was like during the 4 Biden years, but I know you're working hard to restore a more positive experience for veterans. Can you talk about that broadly?
Yeah, I would love to, because that's my passion. Is sitting here. The VA exists for one reason, and that's our veterans. And I think we're refocusing, remodeling, doing that, making changes that need to happen so that we're putting more patient care, more benefits, the things that they've earned that if they want to take part in, and getting those in a very streamlined way that is not cumbersome. Unfortunately, a lot of times what happens in agencies like this, and up here on Capitol Hill as someone who's been in Congress, it's easy to hear a complaint, and then the best thing to do is you want to support veterans is, throw money and people at it. And we've seen that over the last 4 years when we had billions put into this department and thousands of employees, but yet our metrics wasn't going anywhere, Chris. And so our metrics are staying the same as far as appointment times and wait times, and our backlog of disability claims actually went up for various reasons. But it shouldn't be that way. So what we're focused on is cleaning out bureaucracy, making sure that we're doing the best we can for the veteran who wants to access their benefits.
The last time I talked with you, we were actually at the White House visiting, and we had such a great conversation. But every time you and I talk, here's what I find happens, and I know you get this on your own social media. People reach out and have various, you're talking about millions of families and veterans, and many people, for one reason or another, get locked up with bureaucracy. What do you recommend to our veterans that are out there and they're having a frustrating time for one reason or another? Because I never really know what to say. I understand it's still a vast system. You're at the head of it. You can't possibly know every intimate detail of millions of cases. But how do you recommend people best deal with things they're struggling with?
Yeah, no, it's let us know, and there's always a way to do that. One is there's a 800 number, they call it 1-800-MY-VA-411. That's 1-800-698-2411. It's available 24/7, 365. That can help, some cut through this. But let me just be a special one, Chris, and I appreciate you bringing this up. We do have a veteran crisis line, and they can all simply dial 988, and then press 1. And if they're in crisis, if they have if they're concerned, if they're worried about things, or they're suffering a little bit, that is where they need to call, and then we can get them directed to where they need to be. Because I don't want anybody out there to think that they've got lost in the bureaucracy as well. And I don't like to recommend. I recommend this. The members of Congress can help as well. But what I'm trying to do is make sure we at the VA don't have to have others tell us that we're having issues. I want us to realize that when somebody's having a problem, a veteran's having a problem, that it's a failure on our end, and it's a failure on our end to maybe communicate as best we can. So I'd encourage them to reach out that way.
You were a member of Congress. I worked in a congressional office for a time, and I know that people do tremendous constituent service work and work directly with the VA, too, as you point out. So you're a member of Congress. Work with them, too, and they'll let the VA know and maybe advocate on your behalf, too. So that's important. Yeah, thank you, Doug. I appreciate you bringing that up. Let me play for you Crazy Tim Walz. I believe this was last week, talking about Doge cuts, and he said this, and I just wanted to get your reaction. Take a listen.
A joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people. But my point was they're all mad, and I, said something I didn't, probably shouldn't have about a company. He is agreed. So I make the case. They're all butthurt about the Tesla thing, but they don't care the disrespect they have shown to employees at the Minneapolis VA who care for our veterans, and they fire them. They don't care.
So, not knowing we were going to talk, but when I found out we were, that clip came to my mind, and I would love your reaction to it. Mr. Secretary?
Yeah, well, my first reaction is, and just in all candor, thank God he's still governor of Minnesota. And that's my first reaction. The second reaction is, I mean, they've always told me that if you're in a hole, you quit digging. Well, look, he found out about Tesla. Now he's talking about stuff that he really has no idea about. And that is, the randomness of the VA firings in Minneapolis. Well, I'd love to have a conversation about that. Those, what numbers there were. We had less than 0.5%. There were probably at, a few there that I hate for any of our VAs or any part of employee to get laid off. I've been there. I've been a part of being laid off and fired before. But the callousness of the way he says that it implies that there was a randomness that was not true. And I think the issue here is those employees did not have forward-facing care for their veterans in that facility. They were not working with benefits directly that people could access. These were people, and many times, and specifically all across the country, we were having folks that were on probationary periods that were doing things that were not forward-facing, that we could actually take that money and then put toward veteran care. So again, this is a guy who has a lot of issues with seemingly the truth at times, and this is no different.
Yeah, including his time serving the country, incidentally, which is probably one of the reasons that cost him the election. But we won't get into that right now. You've gone to great lengths, as I understand it, too, at the VA to get rid of all this kind of woke stuff, the pride flags, the whole thing, and get back to the business of serving veterans, I'm told. True?
That's very true. We've focused on, with the flag issue. We have, as someone who still serves, I mean, it's one flag that unites us, and that's the American flag. At the VA, we're going to fly the American flag, the POW flag, and our veteran services flag. And at times, if we have folks come in, especially in our tribal areas, we're going to honor those tribal leaders when they come in with theirs. But on a day-to-day basis, we're going to fly the flags that unite us, and that is the American flag. That is what we're putting forward. We're not going to be dividing. We're going to be uniting in that regard. We also did away with the no more at the VA will there be treatments to change your sex, gender dysphoria. We did away with that. If you're currently, though, receiving hormonal treatments in the VA, you'll be continuing to get that. We don't want to, didn't want to, take anybody off that, but going forward, we're not going to do that. And I think almost the vast majority of Americans agree the VA shouldn't be in about the business of changing people's sex. So what we did with that is we said, look, for the monies we were putting aside for that, we're going to put toward disabled veterans, prosthetics, and things that we can get back to that actually help our veterans, the vast majority of our veterans who need our help.
Doug Collins is the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. I'm blown away, actually. Of all the departments, I think it offends me the most that all these years later, people were still remote working at the Veterans Affairs Administration. I mean, you ended that, the remote work policy. Is that right?
We did. Just like we did, just like the president asked us to do, we're putting people back to work. And, look, there's some things that we've made it, and I want to be very clear because some of the members of the Hill like to spin tales that are not true. And look, where we have issues that, especially in our crisis line, there are people that are working on off-premise or others, we're making sure that they are no disruption in getting the care that they need. But folks, it was time to come back in. And it was really, I had two sort of workforces here. I had the Veterans Health Administration, which had to show up every day. You can't show up, you can't run a hospital or clinics without people actually being there, doctors, nurses, frontline, they were there. But yet in some of our other agencies, especially here at the central office where I work at, we still have a lot of people who have not come back. So when we look at that, we're saying, why is that? Why are we not going back to actually putting people back in the offices and making sure that we're dealing with it? And we're doing that. And I've been proud to say that the lunch line is getting a lot longer. The breakfast line is getting a lot longer as people come in and they're able to collaborate. They're able to look together. They're able to move forward with a united vision. So, we're excited about the future, and even as we make a lot of changes here.
The number 800-698-2411. Did I get that right? 800-698-2411 if people are wanting to address some concerns, veterans?
That is it. That is perfect.
Okay. And then 988, you said, was
988 and hit that one button. 988, hit the one button, and somebody will be there, especially. And Chris, if you allow me just a second of personal privilege, if you're listening to this show, and I'm so happy you are, but you're out there, and especially you're one of my veterans who's struggling. Maybe you're dealing with possibly losing your shelter, losing your place. You're having trouble with your family. There's things in your life that make it very untenable. I'm going to slip not just as a cabinet secretary, I'm going to slip as Chaplain Collins, but please find somebody to talk to, even if it's not the VA. If it's not, find your battle buddy, find you a wingman, find you somebody that you can talk to. You are not alone. And the reason I do this job is you. I don't want you to ever think you're alone. So if you can dial that number, great. But if you just go find somebody and talk, look, we'll find you somebody that can help you. Don't ever think you're alone here, especially a veteran who served our country.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.